Have you got the best midfield in the world? Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha, and Bernardo Silva.
Right. And João Neves.
João Neves, who plays right back. He played right back, did he, last game?
No, that. I think tactically you need to find solutions. I think obviously when you got so many midfielders, what we did with João Neves, and he did it with Paris Saint-Germain, is off the ball would be a right back. And then on the ball he will be inside, and then he plays in his role.
I needed you as a coach, Roberto. That would
have England manager.
But have you got the best? Do you feel like you've got the best midfield in the world? Talk us through each of them individually. Let's start with Bruno, because obviously, he gets spoken about so much. His numbers are off the scale.
I think it's very unfairly assessed, I would say. I don't know.
At United?
Yes, because I think if we are very objective, to be the captain of Manchester United in the last 3-4 years, I bet it's been
tough.
Incredibly tough.
Yeah.
At every level. And what I appreciate from him is never hides. Never hides. And I'm not going to value if he makes the right pass, the right execution, but whatever happens in any action, he's back. He's back. He's back. And he's the one that is a leader. He's a leader. And the way he's very emotional, but in a very respected way by his teammates. When the teammates see Bruno upset, they react. They know that that's something. It's not like an emotional player that he just has emotion for emotion.
He's always available. He always plays. He always takes the ball.
Available.
Always.
Give him credit for that.
He plays.
Could we speak 1 second on that emotional point there? Because in this country, if you're emotional, you're a whinger, aren't you? It's the British culture, isn't it? If you're doing this on the pitch, you're whinging. You see it as leadership over, obviously.
No. Any emotion, this emotion is for a reason. And I think that's the difference with other emotions. There are players that they are emotional because it's the way they cope with it. That's completely different. I think that can affect other players. When Bruno reacts emotionally, it's because there is something that's not right.
Yeah.
And it's almost a message to somebody. He looks after every player. He would never, ever let anyone down. But what I appreciate is the consistency. Last season was the player with the biggest amount of minutes in Europe. Like, if you're the captain of Manchester United in a tough period, it's difficult to be available all the time and always being there. And I think that's what Bruno has.
He never shies away.
Never. Then as a player,
even when the game's not going great for him, he's always keep giving the ball. I'll try and make something happen.
Always, and he'll do the difficult job. So he will be the player that is almost that is going to be executing the difficult pass, the final pass. He's going to get in the final third. Tactically very intelligent, without a doubt. We got players that they're going to be managers. Bruno Fernandes is one. Bernardo Silva is another one. This intelligence,
you say that,
football intelligence.
Hang on there, because just on the tactical intelligence, that's something that he wouldn't get appreciated for at United. Because the thought is at Old Trafford that he runs everywhere.
Yeah.
But you're saying about tactical intelligence. Does he play more disciplined for Portugal than you see him at United? Maybe.
I do, just because it becomes a little bit easier with Portugal because you got captains everywhere and you got players that they are top players in their clubs. But he's a player that is constantly making decisions. He assesses where the opposition is, where the space is, how can you affect the game. Yeah. That is something that is in his nature, and he will adjust and adapt. But in the national team, it's a little bit easier because normally you play against teams that they are lower in your ranking, so probably you are more in control than the opposition. It's when you play in those games that you are at the same level that it could be the same that in the Premier League.
Bernardo Silva, I mean, to be fair, I think I said a few weeks ago on commentating on Bernardo Silva, every time I watch Bernardo Silva, I always feel like he's almost like the player's player, the player that everybody in the league will admire. I think you had a little bit about that when you were a player. I think people just admired you from everywhere. How would you say? I mean, it's incredible. I mean, he's almost defending, he's attacking, he's everywhere.
Yeah, for me, it's the example when we speak about what the Portuguese footballer should be, is Bernardo Silva. And when I say that, it's because he's a tactical guy. He wants information. He wants to know where the space is. He can play inside. He knows how to play inside. He knows how to play on the outside. He's not a quick player, but he's so intelligent how to drag you out. And then technically, he's a gift. He's left-footed, but he can use both. But then he's a competitor. And this is what I found that is incredible in the Portuguese culture, is you got this mixture in the same player. Normally, we used to have the players that they were very tactical, and they were always the ones that they want to be creative, and then you had the competitor.
Yeah.
But to have both, and this is Bernardo Silva. When you've got somebody, if you want a reliable job, it's Bernardo Silva. If you want to mark the biggest guy in the box, it's Bernardo Silva. If you want to appreciate where the space is going to appear, it's Bernardo Silva. If you want to attack inside, you're going to use it with Bernardo. If you want to attack in the outside, you're going to use Bernardo. It's this intelligent guy that then has got incredible standards. Is when you speak with teammates, they all appreciate what
You've no worries about his physicality, and even in the World Cup, he's just his football intelligence covers his lack of physicality, shall we say, in terms of running speed. He's not the quickest. It's a bit like Scholes. You could focus sometimes on a player stuff he's not good at.
Yeah.
But then don't take away from what he's brilliant at.
The perfect.
You think his intelligence covers kind of all of that, really?
Totally.
When to move, where to get to.
Totally. The perfect player. If we start with as coaches as the perfect player doesn't exist.
Right, okay.
There's no the player that he can do everything, that is quick in transitions, that he can control the ball, that is intelligent. It doesn't. But I think is the strength of that player good enough to control the game or to affect the game? And that's where Bernardo is super strong. He can dictate and he can affect the game with his qualities. You always, that's true that in the international football, if you say, okay, if you want to be a world champion, you have to play 8 games. Can you cope with 8 games with that physicality, with that's something that you have to manage during the tournament. Nowadays,
that's where the squad comes into it then,
and you can manage everything, but in terms of being able to affect the game with your strength and qualities, without a doubt.
I think you can see that because Pep respects him so much, because obviously he's so strict on his kind of structure, but with Silva you do sometimes see him drop beside Rodri and then he'll go higher, and I think he's so trusted, but Pep isn't a big fan of that. So
yeah, but I think he goes everywhere because there is an instruction.
I think what he does, I think he gets his teammates out of trouble sometimes. Do you know what I mean? There might be areas of the pitch where it's 2v2.
Yeah.
You see him, he sprints over and bees that man.
Speaks about after games, even when City were having a difficult spell last year. He came out and he was critical of players, but not overboard, and he's produced a couple of, obviously, you said defect there, Roberto, he affects games.
It does.
That's what the top players do, don't
he? He does, and he's prepared to do the things that nobody sees. That not many players, a player would sprint if he's going to get on the ball and he's going to have a shot on target, but to have a sprint to cover somebody that is... I remember the game against Man United when United were playing a back 5, and the white player was a bit of an issue, and Bernardo probably was the one covering most of the time that, and you appreciate it so much from a tactical point of view, because that's the will of the player wanting to solve something that it could become an issue. Is nothing that he was given as a role, and that's intelligence that he has. But then Vitinha, when you got these role models in Portuguese football, it happens that Vitinha now is looking to Bernardo Silva and is looking to Bruno Fernandes. Then João Neves is looking into those sort of profiles, and that's so contagious. And that's something that probably you need to take in consideration as well when you put the squad. You don't call the best 26 players. You don't. You call the best, the 26 that they make the best team, and all these aspects come into play.
Let's go. Let's just quickly go to this, because I want to ask Roberto about Igor Tudor and Tottenham, and talk about Tottenham a little bit. But just in terms of Sesko, he's got to play him at the weekend, hasn't he? You would think now. I mean, he's definitely grown a little bit like Gyökeres in this last.
Of course, yeah.
Brilliant.
Confidence, yeah. But even early in the season, remember, I think we mentioned where he was missing 1 or 2 chances, but he was getting into the good positions. You're thinking he's doing a lot of the right stuff.
Yeah.
And he got a lot of confidence and belief.
Does he look quicker and more powerful?
Did you see when he set off?
What was that?
Is that always the case when someone's scoring goals? They just look a bit. You just mentioned there, attacking players do look a bit. The weight's been lifted off their shoulders.
I'll tell you what was really good about that United.
Easy coming on a sub.
Exactly. I was just about to say that, Scholes. Maybe the test will be when you go, no, you're going to be the main man now. Can you take that? He's coming off the bench and getting up to speed with the game.
If it's working as a finisher, though, why not keep him as a finisher?
I tell you, that goal with Cunha's work in that, and then the pass. But like,
his pass was in.
You know what's good about it is that what people underestimate is the balls come across from to Sesko coming off his concentration and finish was so
brilliant,
honestly.
He had a long time to look at it.
A long time to look at it, and this is what I'm saying. People underestimate, right? People underestimate. They think that's easy because it's just him and a goalie, but that finished and the contact again. Remember, Roy, when I say about going to the basics when it's coming, the timing, it was fantastic, and he done the same with that goal where he curled it in the top corner.
The good thing for United with the attacking players there, it's not all on Bruno now. There's a bit more support for Bruno. It's not always on Bruno to find that killer pass. Them lads do look for a striker.
Yeah, Bruno had one of his most difficult games, I felt, on Monday in some ways. But you're right on Sesko, because everybody in the stadium, as that ball came across to him, knew what he had to do. But he had a long time to look at it, but he just did it.
Executed it, brilliant.
And you wasn't sure he was going to do it.
No, he didn't.
But when he did it, you thought...
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you again, because I always look at the replay and watch his whole demeanour. He's going to score because he didn't look at the goal, he didn't look at anything, because you know when it's coming there, you're going back in.
And the goals don't move, do they? Ian?
Absolutely. Don't move. Bam, in there. And
we
again,
don't have to look.
I'm looking forward to seeing them two next season.
When it comes to Manchester United, praise from Keane and Garry Neville is never handed out cheaply. Both legends have built reputations on brutally honest analysis, often calling out players who fail to meet the club's historic standards. So when the conversation shifts and both appear genuinely impressed, even stunned by Bruno Fernandes, it sparks a much bigger debate. Has Bruno Fernandes quietly become the best midfielder in the Premier League? Since his arrival at Old Trafford, Fernandes has carried an enormous creative burden. Goals, assists, chances created, the numbers speak loudly, but they only tell part of the story. What truly defines Bruno is his relentless energy and willingness to take responsibility in the biggest moments. When United are at their best, he is almost always at the centre of it. Every attacking move seems to flow through him, every spark of creativity linked to his vision and urgency. Yet, that dependence also exposes a deeper issue. When Fernandes has an off day, the entire team often looks lost. The tempo drops, the ideas fade, and suddenly United appear predictable and blunt. It raises a critical question. Is Bruno elevating the team, or is the team too reliant on him? This is where Keane and Neville's reaction becomes even more significant. Their admiration isn't just about statistics, it's about mentality. Bruno plays with intensity, emotion, and a constant demand for more. He leads, argues, pushes, and drives standards, even when performances around him fall short. In many ways, he embodies the fighting spirit that defined past United greats. But the biggest twist in this story lies in the future. What happens if Bruno Fernandes leaves?